right, we are now live in Facebook and Austen. It is so nice to see you. It has been way too long since we've seen each other. What have you been up to?
Well, all kinds of things. We've, been cleaning books, trying to help cleaning business owners out. And, um, we have, I guess, recently since then, we have decided that actually going into Canada and Canadian bookkeeping is very different than the US, and we need to stick to what we know.
Oh,
Um, but outside of that, we have some stuff, at least for the US, some different packages that we can help work with cleaning businesses, even if they're maybe just starting out, just to kind of get some basic things going for them if they're not ready for the full immersion, full fat version of Austen. We got some other packages. And then the other, actually, we just launched a little short video series, which we'll talk about a little bit today. Kind of a DIY go through, look at your own financial reports and kind of talk you through how to read them and what they mean and all of that. So some things hopefully will help some people out. Yeah.
awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sad to hear that you can't help us Canadians out. We hear that a lot, and I guess it's because we are just so darn intellectual that our rules have to be so deep and distorted, and yeah, something like that. It
Yeah.
must be because of that. And
Absolutely.
that's yeah. I
Too
just
smart
about
for us.
well,
It's the
well, I
metric
just
system.
well, I just about went a
Yeah.
little bit into politics, and then I pulled myself back. Wait, don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's it. I can't count in metric. That's why. No. Your the tax strategies and all of that are very different, and actually found in the US, it's very much the taxes are done after the fact at the end of the year. So like in
Mhm.
research like Canadian bookkeeping, your bookkeeper is also kind of helping you with your taxes, and they're very much like integrated and happening in real time. Um, which is something that, we, even in the US, we don't personally handle the tax side. We have other partnerships that we use with that. So it just really didn't, they didn't line up, but we wish that we could do that. And we're always out on the hunt. We have reached out to some other Canadian bookkeepers that are good bookkeepers, but don't necessarily have the same specialty with the cleaning industry, or they don't focus on the advisory component of it. So we're on the hunt, and if we run into anybody that can serve us, we'll definitely recommend them and put you guys in touch with them.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So now that we are all here together, just wondering, what have you got for us today?
Well, what we wanted to cover today is, one, we wanted to kind of I can give a little introduction. I don't know how many people are familiar. I know we've been in here before. Can give the redacted version of our story and how we ended up here with a bookkeeping firm. But um, outside of that, what we wanted to do is we wanted to give a little preview of the video series that we created. That's a free tool, so anybody, they can go look at that. It's like a 5 video series and focus on the different financial reports. Some of them you maybe never even heard of or looked at, because most accountants don't use them and they definitely don't pass them on to their clients. So we're going to review those. So just having the inside information on that is going to put you probably ahead of most accountants and bookkeepers, let alone business owners. So that's going to be really good. Wanted to just kind of show more of the why they're important. The video series is going to go explain how to do it and how to interpret those, but really kind of build up for that. Outside of that, we wanted to, one, kind of get you all motivated as far as a new year is coming up. We're wrapping up the end of 2023. And, it's a great start, not just from a tax perspective, but as a business owner, to put some new things in place, take some action that can really lead to a better year than the year we're currently in.
Mhm.
Regardless if it went well for you or not, we want it to go better. Or maybe it's the salvation if it was a really, really bad year for you. How to make that easier. And then the
Mhm.
last part is um, more is going to be a little bit more curtailed to the US just because it's our tax laws and our things, but talking about, how it could have a stress-free tax year, some of the setups, the importance of having good financial reporting and all of that to set you up well for that. And then in the US, I'm not sure about Canada, but we have 1099 season is kind of the first deadline that comes up for us. Those have to be filed at the end of January. So a very narrow window to get all of that ironed out and figure out who needs one and how much
Yes.
to record it for and file. So kind of prepping for that and how we can help at least the US businesses with that. So that's kind of the little rundown synopsis, what we
That
wanted to share.
sounds that sounds fantastic. It sounds like the perfect end of the year presentation, really. All of the things that we're all sort of starting to think about, but maybe putting off until January. It's sort of like, yeah, I know I have to do it. I'll worry about it in January. Nice to have this conversation before that. Just, I mean, if anybody's like me, my brain starts working, I'll be ignoring what's going on there, but it's already making decisions for me. So January 1st, I wake up and okay, this is what we're doing. Um, I don't think that I'm the only one like that, I hope.
No, I don't think so. No, I think that's how we
Um,
all operate on the inside.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
maybe not the most proactive, but it is kind of the natural way that we think about
Well, I
things.
think I think as long as you're acknowledging it, there's a lot going on right now with Christmas and New Year's and family, and I mean, this is a hard time of year for so many people. That as long as you're acknowledging that you're going to need to be dealing with this, having a little info session now will kind of open up the door so that when you're ready to deal with it, you've got the tools you need to get going. So, and then the workshops, I'm looking forward to watching them because, no doubt, even though I'm in Canada and you can't help me, I do serve a lot of cleaning business owners. I try never to give any financial advice in the tax realm, but still kind of nice to know the system and what's required so I can tell them you better get on that. Your 1099s are due at the end of January.
Yeah, for sure. And if there's anyone in the US that is maybe kind of like, hey, I've really been struggling with taxes. I don't feel like I'm being supported very well with maybe whoever your tax preparer is now, or maybe you're just starting out, you're like, I haven't really dealt with a tax preparer, then we do have a very, very good relationship with a company that we work with. We have many, many clients in common, and we work well together. We jump on calls and we work through that. And she specializes in taxes and very difficult taxes. In the U.S., like California is one of the strictest and most difficult tax entities to deal with, and she
I didn't know
specializes
that.
in those. And she's an enrolled agent with the IRS
Hmm.
here in the US. And so she does all of those messy things. The several years behind in taxes, those really nasty things that, hope that never nobody ever has to deal with, but
It's
she takes
common
those
though.
on. Yeah,
It's so
it is.
common in this industry, I think, because when people start out, I think that people don't realize what a powerful industry it is. When you start to take off, suddenly it's going. And, these things that you thought would take years to surface are there already. And so I think it's very common for cleaning businesses to be in that situation. If you see me looking down a lot, I'm just monitoring the Facebook group as well in case anybody's asking any questions. So I'm
Yeah, no
not
worries.
ignoring you.
No worries.
So
Yeah.
at that, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Well, again, I am Austin. I am the owner of Squeaky Clean Books. We are a virtual bookkeeping firm. We service the US as a whole. We have clients from coast to coast, and most of them are in the cleaning industry. Um, the reason that we settled in this industry is we actually came from the very opposite end of the spectrum, not in finance, but as cleaning business owners. So my wife and I, we had a cleaning business. We're originally from Montana, just south of BC, if you're Canadian. And my family actually spent a little time. They lived in BC, my mom growing up. Um, but we had the business for 7 years. And, we got into business for the same reason everybody else does. We want to have control over our schedule, the potential of, putting our priorities in the order that we want them, not in the priority of what's the schedule, what does my employer want, and what is my employer requiring of me. So having control and also the ability to make more money in a shorter period of time, not necessarily being locked into the time clock like a secular job. So, we started that, and that was the dream, but that wasn't the reality. That wasn't the reality for several years. We were caught in this cycle to where we really were. We were a slave to our business, and we were working days, nights,
Mhm.
weekends, holidays, around the clock. We couldn't fit any more into our schedule, but we still felt like, why do we still not have money? Like, why is it still a challenge to cover expenses? And then tax season, like taxes would come, and that was a whole other, just like throwing gas on an already burning fire. Um, so that was the cycle that we were caught in. So
Mhm.
it wasn't a fun reality. So, this went on for several years, as I said, and it wasn't until we started looking at our numbers that things started to change, because it's
Mhm.
very difficult to fix a problem if you don't know what the problem is. And in business, we we find it the hard way. It's a lot of fool's advice that I'm here to share with you today, because that is there's so many moving parts, there's so many variables, and you don't really know until you're in it. And entrepreneurs are the type where we kind of build the airplane in the air and figure things out as we go along. And that can be very hard and very stressful, and very difficult.
I
Um,
love that analogy.
so we were, thanks. I stole it
Mhm.
from somebody. I don't remember, but um, we really didn't have a good system for keeping track of our business financials. Um, maybe this is a US thing and we can get away, and this is where maybe we're showing our our unintelligence in comparison. But
I so
we
didn't
had
mean
this,
that.
no, I'm leaning into it because, there's a lot of things that, we all do well, and all things that we don't aren't in our wheelhouse. So, um, but with all of that, we didn't have a good system, and we found ourselves, we just had a box of invoices and receipts and all of those things. And at the end of the year is when all of those things got added up, and then it was taken to the tax preparer. And that was all historical. Like, all of that had happened. That was the last 12 months, or, even more, depending on how far off we postponed doing our taxes. And that's all it was just enough to get the taxes done.
Mhm.
So by that time, we didn't really know, and we weren't looking at metrics. We weren't looking at things like, how can we use this information that's sitting right here in front of us to actually make business decisions or identify what the health of our business is. So we didn't have that good system, but we started a very rudimentary system. I laugh at it now, being in finance and as a bookkeeper. I laugh at my former self at what I thought organization was, and financial management. But in any case, it at least got us looking at some very basic things and gave us some clarity as far as what the problems were.
Mhm.
Because we thought, well, we just need to take on more clients. But we're like, where are we going to put them? We have no more room in our schedule. We have hit the ceiling. So how is that possible? So really, it took looking into what was going on underneath, popping the hood and seeing what was actually going on under the hood, to really see, oh, more customers isn't the problem, because we're not making any money at the jobs that we have. we're losing money every time we go to the job. So it doesn't matter if we sold $100,000 or $1 million in cleaning services. If it cost us 120,000 or $1.2 million to do it, then it doesn't matter. We're chasing a rainbow. So that was kind of the first reality check that we had. Okay, our prices are way too low. We wouldn't have known that until we started looking at the numbers. So, that was a big pain point. Taxes was another one.
Right.
Um, and we'll talk about that later, like how financial reports can really get into that. But we were stuck in kind of this perpetual tax spiral. It's a compounding spiral, and it just ever declines. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we were stuck in that, and it took us a while to get out of that.
Mhm.
Um, so just kind of to wrap up our backstory, we made these changes. We turned some things around. We by no means figured it all out, but we were at least able to change our situation to where we did have some flexibility. We could do some things that we were not able to do before. We were able to go on a trip, like a 2-week vacation out of the country, and nothing was on fire when we got back,
Yeah.
and the lights were still on. And, we were able to have more control over our schedule. And, for the first time, we actually had money coming towards us as the business owners. Like we were able to compensate ourselves, and we actually were in a position to where we were actually able to save personally. The business
Mhm.
wasn't just compensating us what we needed, but it was actually giving us enough that we could prepare for the next chapter of life, which is kind of where we are now. um, Making those changes, it got us to the point where we decided, hey, we want to change. We want to be able to help other cleaning business owners, but we also, we wanted to start something, but we wanted to expand our horizons. We wanted to be able to create something where we could be more location independent. And we were like, well, if we build another cleaning business, we're going to have to get reestablished and in a new area and build clients and reputation and all of that. And so we decided, well, we would rather work with cleaning business owners. We want to, coach and advise and help them work through these challenges that we just came through,
Mhm.
and, be ahead of the curve on that.
Mhm.
Well, we ran into the same problem that we had is we thought we were special by not having things together, but turns out most cleaning businesses don't have very good financial reporting.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't even have accounting software, or if they do, it's not being used correctly. The records that are there are completely inaccurate. Nothing that you would want to make any decisions off of. And, took a lot of time, a lot of things like that. So we would go and we would, talk to a cleaning business owner, and we'd ask them, questions. Hey, what are you doing in sales here? What is your cost here? How much is your labor? How much, what are you spending in fuel? What's your service area? And, a lot of times it just came back with the same answer that we had. We're like, I don't know. I don't have the answers to any of those questions
Mhm.
because there was nothing to look at. So we couldn't actually help them without first generating some numbers, having some way of finding numbers to look at and then see what the problem was. So that is where a bookkeeping business was born. So that is went back, I got some training, some certifications and all of that to be able to kind of bridge the gap between being a passionate business owner, entrepreneur that has no idea about finance and bridging that with the financial prowess and being able to bring those two things together. Um, so the way that I think about things is very much from the perspective of a cleaning business owner, not as a CPA. Um, but kind of, at least I feel is the best of both worlds because we can kind of come to where you are. I can think back like, oh, I remember this. I remember this problem. I remember being here,
Yeah.
and be able to kind of like pull you forward and show you what's possible, what a healthy business looks like. So, we want everyone to have that business that they designed. We want them to have a business that takes care of them.
Mhm.
Whereas for us, we felt like, our business was just this toddler with a fork headed towards the outlet. And we're
Yeah.
constantly trying to just like intervene
Mhm.
on,
Totally
it trying
understand.
to do it self-harm. And it really wasn't looking out for our interests or what we needed. It was very much the opposite. So we want to flip the script on that and help. So with all of that being said, one of the big things, the valuable things, once numbers are collected, is being able to look at them. And that is our motivation with this video series that we put out there. We wanted, because oftentimes, we talk with cleaning business owners and maybe they're just starting out. Better to have these things in place from the beginning, because that's only going to help you grow and be able to detour around the major pain points and navigate those. So um, we created this video series, and I'll just kind of show you. I'll share my screen here if I remember how I did this before.
You did it.
Did I? Okay, awesome. So here this is just kind of the brief. A lot of the video is going to kind of recover this just a little bit. But what we want to look at is, hey, financial reports are very complicated, and things that even a lot in the finance world, if you talk to a bigger company, even their CFOs don't necessarily know how to read financial reports. And I hear this, time and time again in the bookkeeping and accounting world is, the accountants, they're over there, they're generating these reports, but they have to create summaries and they have to, for lack of a better word, dumb it down and simplify it, condense it so that a CFO could even understand what's going on in the business. So this is hopefully to help you do the same, be able to take these super complicated reports, but actually like see what's going on and, read it like a recipe.
Mhm. Yes.
As far as what's going on in the business and how things work together. So our goal is we want to demystify this. These financial reports, they're going to show the health of your business. They're going to show what actually happened. Whereas normally when we think like, oh, okay, well, it's going to cost me this, and it's, we factor in the things and we kind of do the mental arithmetic and oh, I'll fudge a little number and add a little bit here. And we do that in our head to try to make things work and figure things out. But the financial reports are actually showing us what actually is happening. Like when the rubber hits the road, what's actually happening in the business, not just what we planned to happen. Um, it shows also all the different variables of what's going on in your business. Oftentimes, if we look at just like a P&L, that's half of the story. Income and expenses, those are very key components of it. Much of your taxes are factored, based on that, but that is really only half of the story. There's a lot of other things that actually affect the cash in your bank account. And there's a disconnect there because people think, oh, bottom line says that I made, $50,000. And then they look at their bank account balance and they don't see $50,000. Like, what happened? Well, the financial reports, they explain all of that and show all of those different components. Also the impact, of, like I said, cash in your business. What effect is this actually having on the money in the bank account?
Mhm.
So, I lost my little prompt here. I have
I
my
wish I can
little,
help.
oh, there we go. Anyway, I had it covered up. Um, so one of the things is like, oh, well, financial reports, but what can they actually provide? Like what things are they actually solving or,
Mhm.
alluding to? If we struggled with, most of these, um, paying yourself a reasonable wage, being able to cover payroll, being able to afford taxes when, tax bills come, the cash flow problem where you're like waiting to pay a bill, but you sent your client an invoice, you're waiting for the deposit to hit your bank account so that you can pay that bill, constantly fighting the, rob from Peter to pay Paul. And the fact that it's like, well, you're really busy. I want to hire, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can afford it, or I don't know if I'm in a position to hire. Um, there's quite a few things here, but really when it comes down to it is like, how do we make sure that all the pieces of the business has what it needs, but you as the owner is taken care of, and you can build out the systems and the business and the operations to support that healthy, sustainable business, not the insanity that we usually start with when we're wearing all the hats and we're running around and we're trying to, keep all the balls in the air.
Mhm.
So, one of the things with this, with the financials, because we can go and just be like, okay, I think I need more customers. For us, that wasn't the answer, but we didn't know that until we started looking at the numbers. And an illustration that I, trying to tailor this, think back to my cleaning days, is, you get to a job and maybe you don't have the right equipment or you don't have the right supplies. Your vacuum breaks down or something, you find yourself sweeping a rug, just trying to get it clean, just trying to get the job done because your vacuum went down. Or you're trying to clean a really greasy kitchen and you're like, oh, I ran out of degreaser, or all of that. I guess I'm just going to use Windex. I know it'll be sanitized. Well, both of those things, you spend a lot of time, a lot of elbow grease, but the final outcome really isn't what you want. Like, it's not really solving the problem. You're just,
Mhm.
trying to patch things together and make things work. How much better to have a better piece of equipment or have a better cleaner, and it's going to cut your time in half, it's going to save you energy, and it's going to make you more money. Because
Mhm.
you can't get as much work done if it takes you twice as long to do it, and the result isn't as good as it would have been otherwise. So, in that same way, we want to identify, hey, what is the problem, so that we can use the right tools and the right resources and focus our energy on the right things that actually impact that, actually have the results that we're looking for. So that's the importance of this, but all of this comes down to the fact that it's like, we have to have financial reports to look at, and we have to be able to understand what they're saying. So in the video series, what we go into is we cover the 5 main financial reports. There's hundreds of them that you could pull. You can go into QuickBooks and they got, reports for days. But these are the 5 primary reports that are going to give you a holistic look at your business. So in the video series, we go into your profit and loss, kind of break that down. That's the big piece that maybe we're more aware of, or we think about, oh, gross sales, we think about net income, we think, expenses. But then we're layering these other reports on top of it, and we're kind of like putting the pieces together. So other reports that we are going to look at in that video series is the balance sheet. Those are things that actually show, hey, how much money's in the bank? Hey, what's the balance on your credit card? How much do you owe in sales tax? Do you have a loan? How much do you owe left on your loan? How much are you paying yourself as the business owner, through distributions? All of those things show up on the balance sheet. So all of those other things that affect cash that aren't accounted for on a P&L.
Mhm.
The next one, the statement of cash flow, that is actually, that's my favorite report. It actually shows how money flows through the business. It takes out the fluff of, oh, bought this way and this over here, but it really brings it together and shows, hey, I started with this much money in my bank account at the beginning of the month. I ended with this much at the end of the month, and these are all of the things that either used or saved me money that
Mhm.
actually affected that money in my bank account. So that one's huge. And then the last 2, accounts receivable, which is a fancy word for invoicing. You send an invoice to your clients, and accounts payable is the opposite, bills that your business owns. Well, you own them, but what you owe. Reports that actually show, hey, what are the current statuses? How much money I've done the work, I've invoiced for it, but how many of my customers haven't paid me, and how long has it been since they've paid me? Same thing on the bills. These are the bills that I have coming up to pay. Um, but how long do I have until I have to pay them? How far can I push this off? Because that's a big strategy in cash flow is, making sure that you have the money first before you pay the bill instead of the waiting for the money to come, but you got to pay the bill now, but the money's not in the bank account yet. So what do you do? So these 5 reports is kind of what we are going to focus on in that video series and break down how you can take yours, look at them, and kind of piece things together, build a picture of your business and what's going on in your business. Only then can we really do anything about it. So that is, kind of the introductory. There's an introductory video in the video series, a video for each of those reports, and really kind of like, okay, now what? I got the reports, I saw it. Now, how do I actually take action on this and make this actionable? So, one of the things that we want to do is we want to get those financial reports, but really, how can we leverage that? How could we actually use it to affect the business? So, that's really want to take a few minutes to talk about like, hey, how can we create an action plan? A new year is coming up, all of that. Well, the simple answer is need financial reports to look at. Know what needs the
Right.
attention. Because you can go an inch deep and a mile wide, or we can find the problem and we can go deep and we can actually have a big impact on the problem. So, broad strokes, one of the biggest challenges for businesses, the new emoji things, the AI stuff, giving myself a thumbs up. Taxes is one of those things. It's like it comes up, it sneaks up on us. We're like, oh, now we have to pay taxes. I wasn't planning for that. I know that I probably should have saved money, but I didn't. And now I have this tax bill. And now what am I going to do? So I alluded to this, the perpetual tax spiral, as I call it. So I'll kind of go through the sequence. So, your business makes money. You're like, yay, we got money, we made money. And then you get the tax bill that says, hey, because you made that money, this is how much you owe us. Well, my business was starting out. I had a lot of expenses. I was trying to compensate myself. I didn't save any of that money. I spent it. I needed it for my business. Well, because of that, then you are in this, like, you get your tax bill and maybe you have a couple of months and you're just like, I have to go make some money. I got to go make some money to pay that tax bill. So you go and you go out and you get more clients and you work really hard and you work around the clock, all of that, just trying to get enough sales, enough money together so you can cover that tax bill. And you think, whew, barely made it.
I'll never
But
do
what
that again.
happened? Right. But what's already happened is you made more money in the new year. But what did you do? Did you save any of that money? No, you needed every dime of it to cover last year's tax bill. So now again, you found yourself in the position where you've made more money, you're going to pay more in taxes, but you don't have the money saved. So you're back in that same cycle. The next year, you're playing that catch up and you're trying to make money in order to cover that tax bill that's even bigger than last year's. And you didn't save because you needed to divert every dollar over towards that tax liability and, wash, rinse, repeat. You're kind of like constantly chasing your tail. The tax bills get bigger, the momentum gets bigger, and, it starts to compound. So that's where we found ourselves. Like, we found ourselves in that cycle, and, you really got to put on the brakes and, like, we got to make a plan. Because if we just keep doing the reactionary, just go make more money, just make enough to get through this emergency, that spiral doesn't stop. I mean, it does eventually, but not at a destination you want to go. That's, bankruptcy or, going out of business or something like that. And, we don't want that for anybody. Invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, and, a lot of us are bootstrappers, take a lot of our money that we did have, took, took it from our personal bank account, and we're pouring money into the business trying to, get it to start growing and, take off. Um, but if it doesn't work, then we've really invested a lot of our livelihood into it and don't have any payoff.
And
So,
creating a lot of stress for ourselves that we don't have to do.
yeah.
Just by following a plan and understanding your finances, you can really alleviate a lot of stress. And if you're a stressed cleaning business owner, it's hard to make the right decisions when you're kind of running on fear, that flight or fight response. You're just constantly in that response. It's hard to make valuable, profitable decisions that way. So,
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
speaking from someone who knows, I mean, there's no doubt about it that I had some problems in my cleaning business in the first couple of years. And then with COVID, we really experienced a really huge problem, right? And so I just remember that so well, just constantly in fear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's like using the analogy of fires, it's like things are on fire, and that's what our days consist of. It's like, oh, I got to go put this fire out, and I got to go put that fire out. And we focus on what's immediately on fire today. Well,
Mhm.
the long-term solution is to go find wherever the gas main is and turn the gas off.
Yes.
That's the only way to actually solve the problem. But we're, taking and we're collecting enough water to go and put this one out, and then it starts up again over here. And so, because we're constantly focusing on the immediate flame in front of us, we're just belaying the next fire from coming.
Yeah.
But if we can just like, okay, we know what the problem is, let's go turn off the gas main, then guess what? All the fires go out and we don't
Mhm.
need any water.
Mm.
So, and in our case, water is money, so we want to, really think strategically as far as like, how can I go to the root of the problem, use, the least amount of energy to have the biggest effect on
Mhm.
the problem.
Mhm.
So, that's what we want. So for a new year, one of the biggest things is save your money. Save your money. Like, figure out a way to, and a rule of thumb that I use, and I use this in my business. This is a newer business for us. We set up a completely new business for, our bookkeeping firm from our cleaning business. And, we didn't know. This is kind of a new industry. We don't know. This is our first time doing this. But we took that same knowledge from our cleaning business and be like, hey, every dollar that comes into our bank account, we are taking 15% and we're putting over here in a savings account. And then whether we're paying, estimated taxes on a quarterly basis or we're paying them at the end of the year, guess what? The money's already parked. So I'll tell you, like the other day, because we're like, did we save too much? Did we not save enough? It's all very unique to wherever your business is in this moment. And we were very grateful that we did that. It was a great start. And I tell you what, we went there and they estimated our taxes and be like, well, this is what you're going to owe. We'd saved pretty much exactly that. And we, maybe another $1,000 more than what we anticipated, but we were like, well, we're glad we didn't save less. That extra money is probably going to go into actually filing our taxes. But, that is something that if we were trying to come up with that money now at the 11th hour, we would be in a very, very desperate, panicky situation. But all of that was delayed. But if we spend the money first, we can't unspend it later. We got to put it aside. We got to know this is what this is for. This is not our money. Same thing with
Right.
sales tax. It's like, this is not our money. We've collected it from our customer and we need to hold it for the government, but it's not ours to spend. Like, we're just holding it for them. So factoring that into the money in our bank account and, using it to pay bills is a nightmare in production. So, that's one of those things I guess just want to like put in there. We we follow a system called Profit First, and I don't know if that's something that you know have come across, Carrie, or talk about. Um, Principally, it doesn't matter if it's U.S. or not. We have a certain bank that we use that is tailored towards that system. I don't think it's available in Canada. We looked into that. Um, Ironically enough, they're based in Canada, but they don't service Canada. So most
Yes.
of the reps that I talk to, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in Canada," but they don't service Canada. So,
Mhm.
but at the very basic level is we have different percentages and we break things up. Be like, okay,
Mm.
certain percentage, every dollar comes into an income account. From there, we transfer 15% for taxes to a separate account. We have, you know, X number of dollars that goes into our operating account. That's what we pay our bills, our business bills out of. We have another account. Hey, that's for me. If I want to take a distribution from my business, I get the money in that account, but not any of the other ones. I can't start dipping into other accounts. Um, you know, we set up one for labor because that's the other biggest expense in the business is labor. So, hey, the money comes in, park this in an account specifically for paying payroll. Now we know how much we have left to cover those, you know, administrative, you know, operational costs or supplies, materials, all those things.
Mhm.
And then another account that's profit, you know, so it's actually a little bit kind of creating, getting in the habit of saving, but to use for our business. Um, anyway, so that's just kind of a brief, like that's a system that we have in place. But when we had our cleaning business, we didn't know about any of that, but we at least had a second account that we took every dollar and we put it 15% of it over to cover our taxes. And that served us very well. At the end of the year, depending on the situation, maybe it was a bonus. Maybe we are like, hey, we got, we can, you know, we have a little spending money, or we could pay down some credit card debt, or we could take it as a distribution, or use it to buy some other equipment or things that the business needed. But it was better to have it set aside and have extra than depending on it, using it and not having it.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's the biggest thing. Um, you know, and all of this is, you know, predicated on the fact that we want to handle things proactively, not reactionary. So the sooner we start, then the sooner we're going to feel the positive effects, have a better experience in our business because we're handling things in advance. When we handle things proactively, I mean, clients see it time and time again that I don't really know. I don't want to handle that right now. I'm just going to kind of put that on the back burner and forget about it for a while and hope that it goes away. It turns into taking 10 times as much money, 10 times as much energy, and 10 times as much time to solve that same problem, which just keeps you stuck and
Mhm.
unable to move forward. So, you know, the sooner kind of like jump on and look at the numbers, it's painful to look at them. Sometimes we're like, I don't want to know what the problem is. I want to be, you know, plead ignorance because ignorance is bliss unless you're aware of it. So that is, you know, one of those things that we want to handle things proactively.
Mhm.
So, you know, to that, kind of the last thing we wanted to touch on is, you know, doing these things to make this tax year, 1099s, all of that easier.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's quite a few deadlines. I have, you know, kind of a list of some that I've received from, you know, the company that we work with for taxes here for the US. And one of those things is if you're in the US and you're paying quarterly taxes, well, your estimated taxes are going to be due January 16th in the US. So that's a really quick deadline coming up, you know, basically a month away. You know, sales tax, if you pay annually, you know, then that's going to be due here on the 20th. So again, just about a month. Um, and then 1099s and W-2s, all of those have to be, you know, filed and done by January 31st. All of these things, it's this very narrow window. Can we calculate this and figure this out before the year is ended? No. So we have from January 1, the minute that the year ends, the new one begins until the end of the month in the case of 1099s to get those things handled. So that's some extra incentive, these things that are coming up. Why not come into this with more knowledge and more power by handling it proactively than scrambling at the last second and making it more stressful? Um, the other benefit is when you go to your tax preparer and you can present them with this nice tidy package of, hey, these are my financial reports. This is everything you need and streamlined, and they can just do your taxes. That's huge. Not just from a, hurry and get it over with, but from a tax perspective, kind of the inside story in the tax realm is, at the beginning of the year, they get hit with hundreds of tax returns all at once. Everybody wants to get their taxes done. Well, that's a bottleneck. Sometimes, that goes in, and the matter of a couple of weeks can be the difference of getting your taxes filed on time or them having to file extensions. And it maybe be 6, 8, 9 months before you actually get your taxes filed.
Mhm.
That's a lot more stressful. And, that just naturally puts you behind because now you have this tax bill, but you're racking up the next one as you go into the next year, and compounding things together. So again, in the US, I know that there's a little bit difference in Canada as far as like LLCs. You guys are just kind of like sole proprietors and corporations, but not necessarily that hybrid. Um, but in the US, at least the deadline, middle of March is when corporate taxes are due. And, for sole proprietors, LLCs in the US, that's the middle of April. So if you have a corporation, you're being taxed that way, your deadline's a lot sooner. So, all of that not to stress you out, really in here just trying to, give you that advantage of time on your hands so that you can reach out, get the help that you need, be able to handle those things proactively. So if you're in the US, if you are looking for somebody that, I I've worked with a lot of tax preparers, and there are some that they just want to get the return filed. Like that is the priority. They have hundreds of them, and their priority is just get them done, get them out the door. Um, that's great to be efficient, but that doesn't necessarily translate to you having the best experience, having the best tax strategy, being able to plan and strategize as far as like, hey, how can I make my tax bill as small as possible? To where I'm not, I'm getting all of the deductions that I possibly can. That takes somebody that's interested in you and your business and is interested in the health of your business, not just the file the return to cash the check and get on to the next one.
Yeah.
So we have a very good relationship with a company here in the US. They handle, we have clients, nationwide. She helps me with ones in all those different areas. So it's not, um, it's US. They only handle US taxes, but inside the US, they handle all the taxes and all the structures in there. Very, very talented and very dedicated. Um, and honestly, like I said, I've used some other tax attorney, or I had a tax attorney in the past that I worked with. This year, we're working with them. Like we see the value in what they're doing, and they care about our business, they care about our clients' businesses, and so we're working with them, and we've had a really good experience with them. For us, they showed up with a tax strategy. Be like, hey, do you know that if you file this way, if you file and change the structure of your business, that you could pay half as much in taxes? Wow,
Wow.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for telling me that. But,
Very good to
most
know.
they're not looking at the details enough to even see those things. So, the other half of it, when it comes to financial reports or calculating 1099s, filing 1099s, that is something that we can help you with. We're getting ready to do that. One of the biggest things that make 1099s possible and get those filed on time is getting the appropriate documents in advance. Reaching out to all those contractors and getting those W-9s so that you have them. You know exactly who needs a 1099, who doesn't require one, how much, is going to be determined at the end of the year, but have all the back end stuff tied up. So it's a very, very quick and easy. We can hit the ground running. So we can help you with that. If anybody's in that position, they're needing help with that, then we're here. That's pretty much it. I guess the last two things, like resources, want to offer is one, I'll send you the link, Carrie. So, wherever the video is, if you want to post a link to that free video series, it's just an opt-in, name, email, and all of that, and it's going to give you the video series. But free, no strings attached with that. And then the other is a discovery call. If anybody is interested in, wanting to jump on a call, we don't charge for that. It is a strategy. Like, if it works for us to work together and do your bookkeeping, great. But I also sometimes like, hey, your priority is you need to work on this, or, you need something to tide you over. You're not quite ready for bookkeeping. We have a spreadsheet tool that we built that's kind of a DIY. You don't have to be an accountant and learn accounting software, but you can still have something to track your numbers, do it yourself, have something to look at, and have pretty impactful results on your business.
Mhm.
So we have some different things like that, but we can jump on a call, we can talk about it, we can point you in the right direction. Most of them are free. There's some resources, obviously, that there are other services that we have, but we're not there strictly to just like, all right, how can we get you to spend money? How can we get you to spend money with us today? We pride ourselves in, like, we want to provide the support first. And I'll tell you a prime example of this is earlier in the year, I did a discovery call with a cleaning business owner, just starting out, didn't have any money, wasn't even covering their own internal expenses, trying to get those first sales. Had a discovery call, shared some stuff, got them set up, at least something to go to start with. Didn't spend any money. Thankfully, we're working together now. Like, she's at the place now where we're getting things caught up for this year, and, we're finally able to work together, but we're interested in the long game. If you're not ready to work with us, we want to get you at least successful enough that you can reach out to us for our help when you're ready for it. So that's where we're at. That's what we're here to do. So
That's what we do
with
too.
that, yeah, we'll provide those two resources. And again, on the discovery call, or if anybody's interested, they're looking for the tax specific side, then happy to do an introduction. Introduce them to that tax agency.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. There was some very informative stuff there that I actually got so involved in what you were saying, I forgot to check on the Facebook group. And then I looked down and thought, oh, geez, what was I thinking? Something that's been on my mind, and I don't know if you're able to provide any insight, but with the current recession, do you have any thoughts of what we can expect next year?
As far as like
Do you think that things are going to
trends,
ease up or trends? Yes.
I think that from a like healthy business, like, how can you have a positive effect? No matter what, I think that it is kind of the recession proof thing. It all comes down to price, right? Recessions, money becomes, the key factor. And there's always going to be people out there that they are focused on the price. They order from the right side of the menu. They find the price, they find the lowest dollar amount, and then they look at be like, oh, chicken. Okay. That's what I'm having. There's going to be those out there, but the only thing we're providing a service, which is an experience, which is a transformation. So people pay for value. You wouldn't
Mhm.
spend $50 on a McDonald's hamburger. That's
Right.
ridiculous. But you
Mhm.
might spend $50 on a lobster dinner at a really nice steakhouse, or grill,
Mhm.
you know, because you see the value in it.
Mhm.
So, one thing that I've seen with a lot of my clients and all of that, it all comes down to, it's like, yeah, we kind of take what we can at the beginning. We're trying to get a minimum amount of client base to cover, everybody, keep them in rent and ramen. But the goal is to niche down, like figure out, okay, how can I specialize? How can I provide better value? And how can I do that in a sustainable way? So, it might be for us, we had our service area was probably over 60 miles, which, depending in, Canada, some rural areas, 60 miles can be 60 minutes, because it's a rural area. And that was kind of the case for us. Couldn't get away with 60-mile radius in Tampa because that would be 2 hours, in one way, 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
But, you know, we shrank our service area down. We dialed things in. We were doing like restaurant kitchens. We were doing commercial janitorial. We were doing not quite vacation rental, but it was like a ranch that had guests come and stay. So, like a full turnover service. So we had clients like that, construction cleanups, and then you have the residential. Well, there's just so many things, and they all had their own little specialized equipment and things. So we really, really scaled things down. Be like, okay, how can we go deep? How can we take, you know, one, what do we feel like we're best suited for? Who can we serve the best? And how can we provide value so that it's a no-brainer?
Mhm.
I think in any financial recession, but anybody, there's going to be the companies that are out there to lowball. They're going to
Mhm.
cut corners. They're not going to do things very ethically or honestly. They're not going to provide very high quality. They're not going to be reliable, but they are giving it at the bottom price.
Mhm.
Well, people are going to be looking for that and they're going to hire them. And those
Yep.
people, they go, they're frustrated with the service. you know, a comedian once
That's
told
what
me,
I,
he'd be like, "You're complaining about McDonald's, like, because they didn't put cheese on your cheeseburger." He'd be like, "You got food in a bag for $5. Like, what more can you expect?"
you
So,
know, I love
that's the
that.
difference.
Yeah.
That's the
I,
difference.
I love that. And I love that you brought that up because that's exactly, what the CEO growth programs are all about. It's about let the, you know, I call them bottom feeders, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's people that are starting out or people that don't know any better. Let them fight for the lowest bidder because above that, it's like watching the piranha in the ocean all fighting over this one piece of meat. If you can be above that level of piranha, that's where that's a bad analogy. Just ignore it
I
all,
think
and
it's good.
hopefully, whoever's
No.
going to edit this video, take this out. Let's try again. Yeah, let's start again. What I'm trying to say is there's these owners or these business people who are sick and tired of being underserved, who understand, like you said, I've been eating McDonald's for a year and my stomach hurts. I want to go out and have, a delicious, well-made salad, right?
Mhm.
With the high priced organic vegetables. Get me in there. I want something good, right? So I'm just thinking about it. I've been in Mexico for 4 months and I can't wait to go home and have a Canadian meal. Like I miss the food. So the same sort of thing. I loved it. I loved it. It is very inexpensive to eat here. And it's inexpensive to live here. I loved it. But now I'm ready to be, I'm back, I'm ready for the Canadian culture again, to go and sit down in a restaurant and know exactly what's going to show up on my plate. And the things like knowing that here I know that I can't complain about it and I shouldn't complain about it because nothing's going to happen. I'm paying $5 for 4 tacos. Nothing's going to happen. But in Canada, I know that when I go to the restaurant, if it's not right and I complain, they're going to do what they have to do to get to impress me. On the other hand, from the other side of it, I'm not going to be complaining as much in Canada as I've never been a complainer, but I'm probably going to be more accepting because I've had the other side where, like, honestly, my thoughts sometimes are, did they wash their hands there? And you have to put it out of your mind. You have to stop thinking about it in order to be able to eat because you're so hungry because you can't find anywhere you want to eat, right?
Yeah.
So long analogy, but it's the same idea. There are people who are hungry for good service, for quality professional cleaning services, and you've got to find them. I just said this about I won't mention the name of it, but there's a franchise out there who actually is getting rich by underpaying their subcontractors. The subcontractors are having to do double the work in order to make the same amount of money as, a professional service would. So the clients are very dissatisfied. I'm hearing it more and more, and I'm like cheering. I'm like, hooray, because I can teach people how to go in there and grab these contracts. And I just said it to a friend today, or a client who is a friend. She's told me about this company's got all these contracts. If you know where those contracts are, you go and start having conversations with those owners, because I know for a fact that they're being underserved and they're starting to get hungry for quality service. So thank you. It took me a
Yeah.
long time to spit that out. I'm sorry, everybody watching, but definitely. And I feel that if you can hang on through this recession and all the people underbidding and all of this, it's hang in there, stick to your guns, increase and improve your service. When we get through this recession and people are willing to open up their pocketbooks, or willing to open up their bottom line a little bit, they're going to be looking for these. Like, this is the time to build the business, because when we get there, it's going to be a really major shift, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a great example of that, a couple of my clients came to mind. One of them, he's in New York City, like there's competition all around him and he struggles to get contracts. But, the strategy that we've been talking about is, okay, but I've done a little bit of like the medical cleaning, like the disinfectant, like on the medical field. There's not as many companies that are doing that, but we can charge a premium for that because, people are calling and they're like, oh, we don't do that. Oh, we don't know how to do that. So he's like, hey, maybe I need to start looking for contracts in medical facilities and provide that service because that's very valuable to them. I can't imagine that's something they're going to cut corners on in the realm of COVID and all of those things right now. They're going to still pay for that money. I have another client that popped into my mind. He, in his area, he has commercial contracts, but there's not a lot of opportunity there. Kind of the other end of the spectrum, very um, small rural area, not a lot of contracts to be won out there. He's been in
Mhm.
business for several years, but like he's kind of done what he can with it. And he's switching to residential. He's in the process of going through all of that because that is it's a premium service. The people that are going to pay for residential, some of them to be like, well, if it's going to be that much, I'm going to clean myself, or I'm going to get, my neighbors to do it, or I'm going to get my kids to do it, or something, but a premium service, somebody that's really interested in that, they want the best. They want somebody they can feel comfortable letting into their house. They want somebody to know that they're going to show up and not mess up their schedule. They want somebody that's going to come in and do an immaculate job. They don't have to worry about it. They don't have to think about it. That's why they want a cleaning company. because they don't want to
Mhm.
worry or think about their house and how clean it is, and they don't want to have any part of it. So those things, like some of those shifts and really strategizing, what's your skill set, what's your area, what are people looking for, you know, then, see how you can serve those ones better.
Mhm. Great. That's great advice. I had one more thing, and wouldn't you know, it is completely gone for me. So if I don't come up with it before we close this session out, I will message you.
Yep.
Darn it. I was just answering somebody in the chat and I totally forgot what I wanted to say. So Abby has some questions that aren't related to this. Well, I remember what I wanted to say. So thank goodness. It's because I was talking to Abby when I forgot. Um, when it comes to business expenses, I'm an avid believer that if I could spend some money somewhere that increases my business rather than on taxes, then I should.
Mhm.
That's what I believe. So when it comes to, for instance, online programs such as mine or education, things like that, that are business expenses, are those types of expenses like, is it a percentage? Is it a direct business expense? Do you have any advice on that?
Oh, as far as like, oh, is this direct cost or is this general?
Or is it, yeah, I can claim a percentage?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the tax side, I'm not 100% sure, on the Canadian side, but from from my side as a bookkeeper, like the reporting, the way that we would look at that is that's administrative. Like you're continuing your education, you're getting consulting, they're helping you to get to where you want to go faster and easier. They're the shortcuts. Um, I do those all the time. you know, this month, I bought all about project management. Be like, okay, instead of me going and learning this software and learning how to use it and how to optimize it for my industry, why don't I go out there to someone who's already been there, done that, learned all of it, and has made it plug and play for me?
Mhm.
That's worth it in gold because the amount of time that I would spend trying to learn something like that is going to cost me way more than the price tag on that course, and so that's huge. I think everybody needs a business coach.
Yeah,
I
I
have
do
a
too.
business coach because they get us out of our head. One, they
Mhm.
have experience, but two, they're seeing it from the outside, and we can't perceive that, forest for the trees, so to speak, that we're in our head. And it's funny, like my business coach, I hear him all the time. Like I know
Me
exactly what I need
too.
to do because I hear his voice in my head. You go,
Yeah.
like, oh, in this situation, be like, I don't know, should I do this or should I do that? And be like, I know exactly what my business coach would say. He would say
Mhm.
this,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I
Um,
generally have three at all times, coaches.
yeah,
Mhm.
and it's I really wish that I would have known where it originated, but there is a saying, kind of a proverb, and I believe it was Oriental in its but it talked about, they would pass the sword from generation to generation.
Mhm.
But with that, they also trained the next generation. So, the saying that they said is like when someone drew that sword, they're not drawing it with their experience. They're drawing it with hundreds of years of experience of the people that drew it before them.
Mhm.
And that's really what, like, that's the leverage. That's
Mhm.
the leverage of having other experts and other people around because they've bumped up against all the walls. They've lost
Yes.
some battles. They've, figured out all of these things, and that is setting you up for success. So, obviously, those things, depending on the deductibility and all of that, if they're related to your business and they're helping your business grow, either directly or indirectly, helping you as a business owner, maybe it's not cleaning specific, but it's helping you as a business owner, it's teaching you how to do things faster, easier, smarter. all of those things, money well spent.
Mhm.
It's the same thing we know in this industry. When I first started my business, I had this, like, I'm embarrassed, like, secondhand dirt devil vacuum. And I
Mhm.
remember going to my job and spending 15 minutes vacuuming one rug
Mhm.
because the suction was terrible, the brush roll was worn out. It was terrible. But you know what? I went out and I bought a nice vacuum, an actual commercial vacuum and all of that. And it was two passes on that rug and it was done. And I realized, like, oh, I just spent 15 minutes with the crappy vacuum, or I did it in 30 seconds
Mhm.
with the good vacuum. The hundreds of dollars that I spent on the vacuum is going to pay for itself very, very quickly in the time that I'm saving. I actually had a guy that I used to work for. I worked for a pressure washing company when I was younger. And, he would always say, he was like, product is cheaper than labor. He was like, use
Yes,
soap, use water, and all of that. Product is cheaper than labor. Um, so don't work harder. Elbow grease is expensive, but product is not in comparison.
that's really great. I have
Yeah.
to try to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, with I guess to answer your question, like, from a business standpoint, super, super important. From a, tax deduction standpoint, also very smart. Tax strategy meeting I had with my accountant earlier this month said the same thing. He was like, hey, if there are expenses that you are already going to buy next year, don't put them off, buy them now, because that's only going to help you with this,
Yeah.
lower your taxes this year. If there's
Yeah.
something, like, don't go spend money to spend money, but if it's something that you need and it's something that is an inevitability, then, leverage that.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
courses, coaching, all that. Yeah. And from a professional standpoint, as a bookkeeper, what I tell, if I jump on a discovery call with anybody, obviously, just like, your your people know, you're going to spend money to work with Carrie, but Carrie's, like, obviously bringing the value. But, what I tell people when I jump on a call would be like, well, yeah, it's expensive, but you, I should be able to save you time, money, and energy. I should provide value that surpasses whatever you pay me. So I want you to feel like I'm free,
Mhm.
and
So,
thankfully, like, clients that I have, that I work with, I've I could charge them until their business couldn't afford it anymore. And,
mhm.
the fact that it's like, I don't do that, but it's like I realize that they are like, oh, whatever I have to spend, that's fine. Like, I'm willing to invest that, um because see the value, and they
Mhm.
see the impact that it has on their business, and they see the impact that it has on them as business owners, their overall success.
Mhm.
It's only aiding to their success. It's not a liability. It's not a liability to their business at all.
Great. Well, I just have one more question to you for you, I think, because every time that you answer a question, I come up with a new one. I'm sorry. But I hope that you could answer this one because we have some people that had joined our master plan in the beginning, not in the beginning of the year, it was going on the second quarter. And now they're starting, like now they're seeing their money. We have one that's if he signs the contract this week, he's about to sign, it'll be 500,000 in 6 weeks, in 6 months, in
Wow.
growth. The question is, what should I be warning my clients about with this excessive growth? Like, what would be the number one thing to watch out for? I guess it would be get an accountant.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, obviously I'm gonna say, yeah, well, absolutely, get it out. But in there, I guess I would say, like, the very, 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 very critically, money and the growth in your business is a very valuable tool. But just like any tool, a tool can be a weapon. It can help you or it can be the death of you. And, from that standpoint of just manage it,
Mhm.
you know, um, it translates the same with growth in your business. I mean, if you have that kind of growth, I'm happy to say, like, we've experienced that in this business, um, that kind of growth. But man, I would be in a world of hurt right now if I didn't come into it doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
There's the fast way, and then there's the smart way.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can still grow fast, but
Mm-hmm.
like most companies, if they go and they like, oh, we're going to get the customers and then we're going to figure out how to support them and provide the service, that's a disaster. You know, so having the infrastructure first, to do that and building it smart and doing it strategically, you can still grow fast, but at least you're having a consistent experience and you're able to actually, follow through, build that brand and build that reputation. Um, I see it all the time. Loans, is a big thing. Like whether it's organic growth, like you're saying, in the case of someone whose business has grown, or whether they're getting some kind of a grant, or whether they're going out and getting some kind of business loan. All of that is an infusion. Like money comes into their life.
Yeah.
Very rarely have I
Dangerous.
seen any of those fix a problem. Like
Dangerous. Yeah.
I I have seen a business loan just basically become the noose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah, the money's there and then it disappears like that. But what
Mm-hmm.
you're left with is you got the loan because you couldn't afford the expenses that you had. But by getting a loan and depending on the loan, your repayment just bumped up your expenses. You
Yeah.
just spiked your overhead. And so now that the money's gone and you didn't factor in using any of that to help you, if
Yes.
you get a $20,000 loan and all of that and you spend $20,000, then you've already lost. But if you get a $20,000 loan and you're planning on using half of that to repay that loan, then you can do
Yeah.
it strategically. You can do it smart
Mm-hmm.
and use it to your advantage. But oftentimes it's like the money comes, the money's gone, but now all we're left was even more expense and more overhead than we started with, which again is only throwing gas on the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that, be strategic. Um, I would say for anybody, like just to conceptualize business and conceptualize the health of your business and how it works, I would highly recommend, listen to Profit First on Audible, read the book. Um, the author, he's really funny, he's hilarious, very easy to listen to. It'll go by quick, especially if you're, owner operator and you're cleaning, you need stuff to listen to anyway
Yeah.
because you
That's
got to
right.
have something playing
That's
in your ears.
that's
But
what I miss about cleaning. No more podcasts. I miss
right,
it so much. I don't have
I
time to
know.
learn anymore. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot harder to do that when you're not, trying to find something to occupy your attention. But I definitely read that because his moniker is he wants to put an end to entrepreneurial poverty.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key of what he's saying. So one, I think that it doesn't matter how much money your business makes. That doesn't mean that you're not impoverished.
Right.
Um, I have some clients, ones that I've had for a while and they're sticking around. um, they're not in the cleaning industry, but they're multi-million dollar businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but they are probably one of the least healthy businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I have some clients that are in their first year of business that are healthier than that, business that's been around for years and is operating at a very high level. It's money isn't an identifier of health and success by any means. Um, but in that, managing the money that does come in, that's important. And that's kind of what that Profit First talks about. So that's, I mean, relatively almost free. I think you can go to his website and you can read the first part of it for free online. Um, but it's worth it. It's worth its weight in gold. Um, one of the things that he talks about in that book a reality, which, we all think, oh, these are huge conglomerations, these are huge businesses, corporations. They're not small businesses, you know, they're publicly traded companies, or or they're just, massive industries. Think, well, they got to be making money. Not really.
Yeah,
Not
that's right.
necessarily. He talks about, he's like, in the he's built many, many, many businesses that are multi-million dollar businesses that he's sold in all different industries. And he said, the only time they've been profitable was the day that I sold them.
Yeah. Hmm.
He was like, it is the turn and burn. It is like, you build them up and you sell them and it becomes somebody else's problem. Doesn't mean that
I mean,
business is going to make money if you sell it, but it just means that you made money because you sold it.
mhm, yeah. And then you just
You
get
know,
yourself into it all over again.
and then you start something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, from that, it all comes down, just manage the money, at least taxes. But like I say, having those structures, he talks about those 5 accounts in his book. Having an account where just all of the money comes into every dollar that your business makes, it goes into an account. And then from there, it is distributed to those other 4.
Hmm.
Um, and the bank that we use, it allows us to kind of have a zero balance, doesn't charge us those, minimum fees and all of that. Um, but even with that being said, the fact that it's like you're building a budget for your business. You're saying, this is how much I have to pay for expenses. This is how much I can pay myself. This is how much I can pay my cleaners. And this is how much I need to set aside for taxes. Even that is going to set you up, very, very well. And you are going to have a healthy and a profitable business at a much, much earlier place. Because one of the first things that we do, and I'm going on and on, I know this is a really long call. But one of the first things that we do with clients that I start working with is we do what's called a break-even analysis.
Hmm.
And it's the fact that it's like you have variable costs. Labor is one of those. You take on another job, those expenses are going to climb at the same percentage.
Okay.
So, maybe for, easy numbers, 30% is your direct labor.
Hmm.
Probably more than that, but just 30% is your variable cost. But then you have other expenses. You have your business insurance, you have office supplies, da 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 da, all those things that it doesn't matter if you have 5 clients or 50 clients. They're all kind of like, you need them to run your business, and they don't grow at that exponential rate like direct
Hmm.
costs. So we figure out, be like, okay, so this is the percentage of your direct cost that's going to grow with sales. Then we have this part down here that's a little bit more fixed. It's going to grow, with your business, but it's a little bit more fixed. And what do we need to make in sales in order to break even? To make sure the payroll is covered, to make sure that the business expenses are being covered. That's the first sprint. Even before businesses like, hey, this is an investment. I want to get paid eventually, but I just can't afford to pump more money into this business. I need it to at least sustain itself, even if it's not sustaining me. So we do that as the first thing. And you know what? It comes down to it. The fact that it's like your pricing, what you charge, what you pay your cleaners, and what your operating costs are have a huge is a huge impact. You just going through and analyzing, analyze. I'm stuck in a
I'm
loop.
glad it's not just me. I was trying to say the word
No,
trends the other day. It was not working.
yeah, no, it's I'm stuck. But looking through and analyzing those things, you can really bring that down. I know for client, the other day when we first started working, be like, hey, your business has got to make 60K a month to break even at this point.
Hmm.
But you know what? We like did some strategizing, be like, hey, guess what? Because we made these changes, now it's 30,000.
Hmm.
So, playing it smarter. And that's why I say success can come at a lot lower revenue mark than what we think if we're smart about how we grow.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's a direct answer to your question, but that's what all I
Yeah,
have to say about that.
yeah, well, I just don't even remember the question anymore, right? This has just been so informative and I really appreciate it. And tell you the truth is this is really going to help me out with my online program because, we've been in business now 3 years, but right now we're expanding, we're growing, and it's any kind of growth is hard. That's why they call it growing pains, right?
Mhm.
And the thing that is a financial advisor. And the thing that scares me the most is if we start to really create wealth, what are we going to do with it? I've been, you know, I had brought my cleaning business back from destruction. And then I started this online program for something else to do because I knew that for my cleaning business to grow, I needed to get out of cleaning, but I'm addicted to being busy.
Mm.
And so I started this program, and it's about to be at a place where it's going to bring in the wealth. And I really want to be sure and take care of it. Be smart about it because I think that this time around, I'm probably going to take a year off, you know? Maybe
Mhm.
not do this crazy addictive thing of, okay, now I've got this business running and I've got all of these employees taking care of things. Now I can't allow myself to take a rest. I better start a new business. I was just thinking that it might be nice to not start a new business this year.
Well, I think that for me, running a business like it's twofold. Like obviously there's the hey, want to keep the lights on, want to, support life and all of that.
Hmm.
And like the personal goals. But I think the other thing behind it that is if you're going to build something, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to build something and you're going to go through the hard stuff that it takes, you got to have a good why.
Hmm.
And you have to have a dedication and kind of a higher a higher tether than the
Hmm.
day-to-day stuff in order to get through it. Otherwise you get bogged down and be like, why am I doing this? Like I know when we
Hmm.
first started a cleaning business, like I should go work at McDonald's. I would make more money and at least when my
Be
shift is
happier.
done, I'm done. Like I go home. So, that's how we can feel if it's not tethered to something bigger.
Yes.
But if it's like, hey, this is making a difference, this is like, I feel like this is something that I'm in alignment with,
Hmm.
that's a big thing that I get from this business.
Hmm.
Honestly, more than cleaning. I
Hmm.
enjoyed cleaning and, had that, OCD, attention to detail thing and all that. But I found a lot more passion in the business side than the actual execution, like service side. And then from there, like, hey, can take this and impact others and help others. That's what it's all about. Like that's
You know,
the driver. And if that's at the source, then the value is going to be there. And if the value's there, then people are going to want to work with you.
yeah. Yeah, that is the thing. And I think maybe that's why I am satisfied because I do love what I'm doing. And that's the thing. I love building businesses. And so helping other people build their business, it's like less stress, less worry. I can get on a call with them and give them my best advice. And when the call's done, my responsibility is finished. I don't have to go to bed at night and wonder and worry or even the excitement, although I do get excited for my clients. But that constant adrenaline rush one way or the other, I can leave that when I end the call, you know? And when you're building a business, that stays with you. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think about. I really do love what I'm doing right now. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why I'm not thinking about the next thing. Maybe I'm just happy here.
Yeah, I think it all comes down like I know on our vision is like, okay, this is what we're able to do right now. Like this is what we can do well. but that's not where we want to end. You know, there's so many moving parts to business, and you know, some of, you know, in the case of like you carry in other industries, it's like, well, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. These people, they got it dialed in, like they're here and they're providing that value. Well, let's just, you know, synergize. But you know, there's other things that it's like, hey, this is a hole. This is a pain point, and this is something that is still not being addressed. Okay, how can we also add this, and how can we build this out? How can we take off more pressure? How can we serve them better? And all of that, and going deeper, you
Mhm.
know, like going deep with one thing, but then expanding the footprint of that, but still, you know, being able to have a really deep impact
Mhm.
is, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be another business, but it can be another service or another component, another offering that you can have that's going to support people in another way, in a deeper way. And maybe it's related to what you're already doing.
Mhm.
You know, I know for us, it's like, okay, well, yeah, the bookkeeping and the finances and all of that, like, yeah, that's great. But there's so many other things, you know, that we end up touching on, but we feel like there's so much about business that, man, if people knew this even before they got this far, they would really be on a fast track. You
Mhm.
know, I jump on a call and be like, yeah, well, let's talk about, you know, advanced KPIs, and, you know, let's talk about this and, you know, that. But they're over there like, prime example, one of my clients is just like, well, so I couldn't afford payroll. So I just paid this person, you know, separately outside of payroll. Be like, okay, well, we're gonna have to 1099 them at the end of the year for that part of it. Well, are they gonna owe taxes on that? Well, yeah, that, you know, you didn't do it through
Mhm.
payroll, taxes would have been withheld. That's not withheld over there. So yeah, they're gonna pay taxes. Oh, I thought I found a loophole in the system.
Yeah.
You know, but
No.
there's so many of just like things like that. Um,
Yeah.
Oh, another one, actually, I'll stop talking. This is
No.
my epic problem. But my wife told me, in the network, you know, of bookkeepers, I'm in a network of, you know, probably about 10,000 bookkeepers. And in there, somebody was just like, because they're not a tax expert, and not all bookkeepers should be advisors. She's just like, oh, well, so I was talking to a client and we thought, well, maybe he should just give himself a bonus at the end of the year. Like take the money out of his bank account and give it to himself as a bonus, because then he'll pay less in taxes. Like somehow he was going to be taxed on the balance in his bank account,
Right?
but wasn't being
Yeah.
taxed on the money that he made. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how that
Like,
works.
yeah. I don't know about the States, but in Canada, bonuses are taxed even more.
Yeah, depending on how you file and all of that. Yeah, the self-employment tax here in the States, like that's self-employment tax, you're taking that money out. Yeah, it's charged at a much higher rate than payroll. Um, you know, so different things like that, but you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times business owners, like it's not because we got an MBA, it's not because we got, you know, CPA or some fancy degree or experience. We just, hey, this is a service, this is something I'm good at. How can I do this to feed my family? That's the inception. Then it grows from there. But that doesn't mean that you come into it as a CEO
Mhm.
knowing about business as a whole and all of the hats, how to be a
Mhm.
marketer, how to be, you know, how to do sales, how to do the service, how to do the administrative stuff behind the scenes, you know, all of the legal stuff and the tax stuff is things you only know by either figuring out the hard way or talking to somebody who knows. Um, so I guess like the long way of saying is like there's so much out there for people that are getting into business that they don't even know.
Mhm.
They don't know what best practices in business. So like there's so much room. How could we build the bridge backwards to where they're starting, and from the very start they think, you know what, I want to start a business. I wonder what I need to know to start a business. Well, how is there like a very easy bite-sized introduction, give them the 10,000 foot view of business and how it works and how it's different than your personal life.
Right.
You know, giving them that clarity for them to build on and have that foundation.
Hmm.
You know, that's kind of our goals. Like we want to build out, either use the resources, the things that have already been built and partner, or find those gaps where we can fill them and build those out. But like we want to create an ecosystem of highly educated and successful business owners because they have all the support that they need to be successful.
Hmm. Awesome. I was just thinking, when you teach them what to do with their finances, and I'll teach them how to set up their systems, and away they go.
Yeah,
CEOs.
processes. I'm learning that in this business, man. Processes, that is like the secret sauce. Like again, a time and money saver for sure. If you have a process and you can create efficiency and
Yeah.
consistency,
You
that's
know,
huge, but that is a labor intensive component. There's a lot involved in that.
well, I always thought this was easy. Like the idea that somebody else doesn't understand how to create a system or a process, it's shocking to me still. I'm like, well, this is easy. You just do it. Like it's so easy. And apparently it's not. And I didn't realize that. It's actually where I struggled in my first year in the online program was I thought, just tell them to do it. That's what I thought. Tell them to
Yeah.
do it and it will happen. And the truth is you have to show them how to do it and then give them your template. Like
Mhm.
it's not easy. I'm like, well, it is for me. It's just not easy apparently.
Well,
So
that's your secret sauce, and that's why you need to be in the captain's chair.
yes, right? Exactly. Exactly.
I don't even get it half the time,
Yeah.
Oh, well,
and it's funny because I'll go to her and I'll be like, I see this issue and I'm like, I can't figure it out. And she'll be like, "Brr," and it's done. And I'm going, how do you do this? She goes, I don't know. It's just there's a file in here that's working. So
Yeah.
I learned two
it's
things. Two things that made like a huge impact is one, quit trying to figure it out yourself. Even if that
Mhm.
means Googling it, but just like go at least go look in the right start. Like, why can't I get my, my domain connected to my email or whatever? Be like, well, instead of going and clicking in every place and trying to figure it out, why don't you search for it? Because somebody's probably had this problem and recorded a video, or there's some blog or help article out there to walk you through it.
Mhm.
That was the first thing that is just a huge, like a common sense thing now, but wasn't common before for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the second was, the when a problem comes up, it's easy to get into that victim mentality. Like oh, I'm overwhelmed. Oh, I don't know what to do. And like analysis paralysis, like that's our natural reaction most of the time is we
Mhm.
fall into that. A business coach one time, he was just like, hey, anytime you come a problem, he's like, make a list with 10 possible solutions and start working down the list. He's like, it sounds really
Mhm.
simple, but putting 10 things down there, he's like, is shifting your mind from victim of circumstance to problem solver.
Mhm.
He's like, and then working down it, this is not going to work, but it's like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. He's like, and I guarantee you, probably, well, before you get to the bottom of that list, you're going to have a solution to the problem.
Yeah. That's excellent advice.
It gets you off of get you out of that stuck mode. I think as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, momentum is probably like more than
Yes.
money, more than time, more than anything is just like momentum. I mean, it's connected with time, but momentum is gold.
Mhm.
And that's a good game changer as far as like shift it to finding momentum instead of feeling stuck and caught in the mud.
Well, we've had another, when you and I get together, it always turns out this way. I really appreciate it. I'm so thankful for you to take the time because I always come away feeling a little smarter. So I really appreciate that. And
I'm glad I can create the gap for you. You feel smarter in comparison.
it's amazing. Yeah, yeah, right. What I meant by that, actually, what I was meaning by that was I was thinking about a certain government official who likes to create lots of silly rules and taxes and things like that to confuse us into thinking that somehow it's going to be better. So that's why what I meant by all of that intelligent stuff, but it really came out wrong. That was an open mouth
I am
insert
totally
politics
teasing you,
moment
Carrie.
for me. But it's all right. I mean, yeah, I
I'm
feel
making
kind of
light of
happy.
myself, but not at your expense.
Thank you so much. I do so appreciate everything you do for us and for the community. And I
Yeah,
also
absolutely.
wanted to make sure that I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, you and your family. Gina,
I
who I
appreciate
finally
that.
saw for the first time today.
Was that your first sighting of Gina?
Yes, that's the first Gina sighting. As you can see, Peter is all over my program now.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it without him now. So,
our secret
yeah,
weapons.
yeah,
I
that's
know
right.
all of the stuff. It's like I'm the hammer and she makes it look pretty.
Well, thank you again for everything. So you're going to send me a link to the workshops, correct?
Yes, I will. I will send you an email right after this, and then I'll send you a discovery call. I guess I should say what I did do with the discovery call, because I know it's like we're coming up on the holiday season, want to motivate everybody to take action, is I opened up some spaces on my calendar, a unique calendar for your group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like the next week, 10 days or something, there's a lot more slots opened up. Usually there's like 2 days a week that I do discovery calls, but I opened it up
Mm-hmm.
between now and the holidays so that anybody who wants to jump in, do a discovery call and all of that and kind of hit the ground running, then welcome to do that. So I'll send you a link for that, and then I'll send you a link to the page with the video series. And like I said, it's just a simple opt-in email, get you right to the page, but
Awesome.
it's not a sales funnel. It's just there as a
A
resource.
free resource.
Yeah.
Peter and I are not
She froze.
relatable to Canadians. Oh, I always freeze. Even though it's not relatable to Canadians, or Canadians, no, maybe it's relatable. Even though we can't really follow the same structure, it's still some of these things you talk about are foundational, no matter where you're from. So we'll take a look at it as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the video series, I think it'll translate,
yeah.
different symbol.
Well,
Business
thank
A
you.
practices are
CAD
still
instead
business
of a
practices.
USD, after it. But, I think a lot of it, the principles, taxes is a common component of it, expenses, labor, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for trying to help us Canadians. And I really appreciate that you gave it a shot.
Yeah, I met with some and all
I
of
know.
that, and they were like, "Oh, I can help them with their bookkeeping." And I think ones that we had discovery calls with from your group before, we were like, "Hey, if you're looking for a bookkeeper and they can help you out," but they were like, "But we don't do what you do. Like we don't do advisory. We don't know about like the whole business side." So, we're on the search for that as far as to get a good partnership with that. Find our Canadian equivalent. So,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, good. That's what we need. I have been searching Canada for somebody like you and another lady that I work with as well. Her name is Erica. Um, the two of you are what I need here in Canada for myself and for my clients. So I wish I could find your Canadian counterpart. If you find them, let me know.
okay, I will.
We have enough people searching, we're gonna find them. You
Yeah,
know
for
how I
sure.
am. I'll never refer anybody unless I really feel like I trust them and that my clients are safe with them. So it's just not an easy thing to do. I can't seem to find anybody. There's trustworthy people here, but are they right for my clients? You know?
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah, for
Thank you.
sure.
Let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you can turn this into a two-parter. I think we got
We've got a lot of content here, but I really enjoyed it. So thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciated being here.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you both.
Happy
Awesome.
holidays.
Thank you, Austin.
Yep. See ya.
To those of you that are still here, did you have any questions or comments? Is there anything I can help you with before we close out the meeting? Maybe not. I think they both said that they're working, so may not be able to talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
Did I
that was
unmute?
me.
Oh, good.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, I'm good. You know, it was just really, it was like he was talking to me the whole time. So
That's
it
what
was a
Peter said.
very
Yeah.
informative meeting. And it definitely put a sense of urgency under my tail. I do have a bookkeeper who I clean for, so I'm cleaning for her. I have not gotten very much information about my books yet because we're doing a whole cleanup, and I have the sole proprietor and then merged to the S corp, so it's kind of messy.
Mhm.
But I that it was just very motivating, very motivating.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I came for this call. I desperately
Yeah.
needed to.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been like I understand the profit first concept and I've seen it on paper, but I've never listened to the audiobook. So I think I'm gonna listen to the audio tonight just to finish it off.
It's very good. I liked it.
Yeah.
And he is very funny.
Yeah, he's there's him and there's Erica, and both of them are just phenomenal. I'm
Yes,
so happy to have them in my networking group that I can refer them because I just trust them, you know.
absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, he I've known him for 3 years. Erica I've known about a year now. So yeah, nice, good long-term relationships. In the online world, that's a long-term relationship.
It is, I agree.
So yeah, I think I'll just let you guys go for the day. I've got to prep for my next meeting. But yeah, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Try not to work too hard.